This is the swimming schedule for day one of competition from the National Aquatic Center here at the Bukit Jalil Sports Complex, the same venue that hosted the 2001 SEA Games in Kuala Lumpur, and it has been rippling gold for Singapore at this venue thus far after their feats in synchronized swimming as well as water polo for men, and the swimmers hope to continue the golden harvest. The morning heats, where the hot favorites will most likely get through to the finals this evening, which starts at 7 p.m. and you can watch that on Octo Sports. And the heats this morning feature Singapore's very own Olympic champion, in fact Southeast Asia's first ever Olympic champion, Joseph Schooling. He swims in the final heat for the morning, and that is in the 50 meters butterfly for men. Well, as I said, the swimming powerhouses like Thailand, Singapore, Vietnam these days with Nguyen Thian Van, and then Indonesia and Malaysia themselves, their swimmers most likely will make the finals. The also-rans of Myanmar, Cambodia and Laos hoping to upset the form books a little bit and hope to catch one or two swimmers just a little asleep this Monday morning, and hopefully progress into the finals too. Well, there are the team members of Thailand dabbing away and enjoying themselves before the start of competition. A lot of these swimmers for the morning heats just really getting the hang of the pool, which they're trying out for the very first time. Even the Malaysian Championships were held in Malacca this year and not here at this pool. Early this morning they were just putting in the lanes to get the pool ready as the technical officials get ready to greet the swimmers, as the Singapore swim team, which has a new national head coach, of course, Stefan Wittmer, an Australian who's coached so many world record holders and gold medalists, the likes of Liesl Jones and Jessica Schipper. So the swimmers are getting ready to be introduced for our first event, which is the 50 meters backstroke for men. 2 heats in this. Total of 12 swimmers. 6 of them from the last SEA Games finals in Singapore are here. In fact, 4 of the swimmers from the 2 heats are featured in the last 2 editions in which the 50 meters backstroke has appeared at the SEA Games. That happened in 2011 and 2015. 2011 it was Igade Siman Sudatawa who won the gold medal, and then Kwatong Wen grabbed it right back in Singapore in SEA Games record time of 25.27 seconds. It's the figure of Tana Intavong of Laos, ready to lead the swimmers out. Tung Wen behind him, ready to go for the 50 meters backstroke. I can tell you that Kwatong Wen and Francis Fong of Singapore will be swimming side by side in this heat. And Malaysia have their hopes in Ken Tian Han, who is supposed to go just behind Tana Intavong, but Kwatong Wen has actually stepped ahead and taken his place for that. Tran Duy Khoi of Vietnam, the final swimmer to make up the 6 in heat number 1 of the event, where 4 from Southeast Asia have dipped below 26 seconds this year, including Kwatong Wen of Singapore. Francis Fong, one of those who hasn't dipped below 26 seconds, but he looked very good last month swimming and coming in 3rd at the Commonwealth Youth Games. So just the heats, the swimmers working on their starts, especially for this event, working on their breakouts, and perhaps for the longer distance events, just a little bit of propulsion and streamline work for the morning. It's not like the World Championships or the Olympic Games, where you need 3 good swims in order to win a medal at those championships. Heat 1 ready to go then for the 50 meters backstroke, and this signals the start of the swimming competition here in KL 2017. All eyes naturally on Kwa Zheng-wen, Patana of Laos in lane 2, Tin Han of Malaysia in 3, Zheng-wen in 4, Francis Fong of Singapore in 5, Priyot of Cambodia in 6, and Du Quoy of Vietnam, who finished 4th at the last SEA Games in lane number 7. So the breakout looks good for lane number 4, Kwa Zheng-wen, and he goes through easily. Francis Fong, who tries to keep up as much as possible. Well, he needs that aggressive swim in order to get into the final, but Tran of Vietnam finishes 0.39 seconds behind Zheng-wen, and Francis Fong making it to the final surely with that 3rd place finish in the heats. Easy does it for Zheng-wen. There'll be more to come from him in the grand finals in itself for the Singapore national record holder. Time of 25.13 seconds, which he set in one of the legs of the FINA World Cup in 2015. His breakout was absolutely superb for Kwa Zheng-wen, which will please him pretty much, and it was a leisurely swim in the morning, just a touch home in 1st place ahead of his compatriot and teammate Francis Fong, who was getting pretty aggressive right to the end there. Confirmation of the results with Kwa Zheng-wen taking top spot in heat number 1, Tan Tien Han of Malaysia in 4:26.62. That should be good enough to get him into the final.
Backstroke, heat 2.
So heat 2 features the fastest man in Southeast Asia this year, Gede Siman Sudatawa of Indonesia. He will be swimming in lane number 4, looking for revenge, if you like, in reclaiming the throne of the fastest backstroker in Southeast Asia, back from Kwa Zheng-wen, side by side with Ricky Anggawajaja in lane number 3 and Kasipat Chokratin of Thailand in 5. Those 3 the hot favorites in this heat. As I said, the morning swim is really to work on the technicalities leading into the main final in itself, where we will see a real battle between Gede Siman Sudatawa and Kwa Zheng-wen. Now that he knows that Zheng-wen has done his part in terms of qualifying first in his heat, Sudatawa want to do likewise as well to make sure that he will be swimming next to Zheng-wen when the lane assignments come up for the finals in itself. So heat number 2, and straight away Sudatawa, the half a body length ahead of the rest of the field already, with another quite perfect breakout there. Perhaps just a little bit too deep in terms of that, but he is someone who can quicken the stretch so very much. That's the reason why he is so big and strong in the 50 and 100 meters backstroke in Southeast Asia. He is ahead at the moment of Paul Nguyen of Vietnam, and he touches home first ahead of Nguyen. Chokratin is in 3rd spot. Sudatawa looks very, very good, doesn't he? A wonderful streamline. That body hardly even moved. We drew a line between him right to the end of the block. You could see that he hardly deviated away from it. What a swimmer this Balinese boy has been for Indonesian swimming in the backstroke events, which he has totally dominated with Kwa Zheng-wen in Southeast Asia since the turn of the decade. Maximum propulsion for the first 25 meters, easing off for the final 20 into the final, and he should be beside Kwa Zheng-wen in terms of the lane assignment for the final. That should whet everyone's appetite for the main event itself, which will be the first gold medal given out for swimming. 25:53, and he didn't even break sweat then. So he is in superb form going into the final. Jordan Ju Eun Yip will have to watch closely to see whether he's made it with that time of 27.61. And here are the qualifiers for the final. Jordan misses out on a spot. Francis Fong of Singapore does make it as the 5th fastest qualifier, but it's Sudatawa ahead of Nguyen and Kwa Zheng-wen. So the 3 of them swimming lane to lane in the grand final in itself, and Tran Du Quoy of Vietnam completing those numbers of lanes 3 to 6 in the grand final. more events to come, and that is the golden girl of the 2015 SEA Games. How well did she do? Nguyen Thi Vien, 7 gold medals at the last SEA Games in Singapore. 11 gold medals in all. Vietnam's only female gold medalist at the Southeast Asian Games, and in fact Vietnam's only medalist at the Asian Games. She has achieved what no Vietnamese has ever done in the sport of swimming before, and Thi Vien is showing interest in 10, I heard 10 events at these games in Kuala Lumpur. She is going to totally dominate and annihilate the field if she swims true to form. She swims in lane number 1 for the 200 meters butterfly. Lane number 2, in fact. As we look at the start list, 2 Singaporeans there, including Nicole To and Kwa Ting Wen. I've seen her brother already swim in fine condition in the 50 meters backstroke. Well, she doesn't have to put down a marker for the grand final in itself, because there are only 10 swimmers in the 200 meters butterfly looking for 8 places in the grand finals, and Ting Wen should be there or thereabouts. Her best time this year, 2:12.95. There she is, the fastest time in Southeast Asia this year. But she's up against a Vietnamese lady who has clocked 2:11.12, her winning time at the last Southeast Asian Games. Except for 1989, when Nurul Huda Abdullah won one of 10 gold medals in this event. Every time our SEA Games are held in Kuala Lumpur, Singapore have won gold.
From Indonesia, together, Siman Sudapawa.
The stadium announcer is just announcing the qualifiers for the grand final of the 50 meters backstroke earlier on.
From Vietnam.
Her brother's name just mentioned on the PA system, which might give her a lot of confidence going into this race. Her first ever away SEA Games performance, and it'll be interesting to see how Kwa Ting Wen just matures into the top swimmer a lot of people expect her to become.
The reserves, Laos, Intawan, Papana, and Malaysia, Jordan Zhu and Yip.
She is waiting and slated for 2 events today. This and the 100 meters backstroke as well. She will be competing every day at the pool. Nicole, who pleased the home fans at the Aquatic Center last year in Singapore when she came in with the bronze medal at the FINA Swimming World Cup. That of course was in the short course swimming, and she did finish 8th as well at the Asian Swimming Champs in the long course event last year, which was really very much a breakout year for Nicole Teo. But it's Kwa Ting Wen that all eyes are on, the lady who won the silver medalist at the Commonwealth Youth Games just a month ago in this event, and she's been regularly clocking times below 2:14. So it's Thi Vien at the top of your screen. Nguyen Thi Vien of Vietnam, the hot favorites in this, in lane number 2, and then Nicole To of Singapore in lane 3, Kwa Ting Wen of Singapore in lane number 4, and then Nimdan Kanita, who finished 2nd at the Singapore National Age Group Champs back in March. She's in lane number 5, and in lane number 6, Hani U Nam of Vietnam. It is Jingwen who will turn in first place, just 0.33 seconds ahead of Tian Vian and Toh of Singapore in third. We expect those three to maintain these positions and go into the final reckoning and touch the wall. Not particularly in that order, but the three of them to make it through to the final rather easily. This morning swims, especially for the long distance swimmers, as I said, once in a while just torpedoing forward to work on those propulsions, make sure that you work on your turns. Don't have to stretch every sinew of muscle in your body, and these are the points that they really have to work on. Those turns, the breakouts, which looked very good indeed for Jingwen, and then make it comfortably through to the final. Tian Vian knows that this is just a warm-up exercise for her two events. She doesn't want to lose sight of Jingwen either. Hasn't swum this event much in the last couple of years, ever since demolishing the field at the last SEA Games. So Nicole Toh will turn in third place behind Tian Vian, and Jingwen leading the field in heat number 1 of the 200 meters butterfly. Coasting home. And there's still a lot more in the tank of Kwa Jingwen, who is slated to swim in this as well as the 4x100 meters freestyle event this evening in the grand finals. Well, she's made the final of the 200 meters butterfly by clinching first in her heat, just ahead of the defending champion Nguyen Tian Vian, and Nicole Toh finishing in third place and making it through to the final as well. Coming in fourth, Nimdam Kanita of Thailand, and just touching home, Hani Unam of Myanmar. Of the results, Jingwen the only one to dip below 2:15, Nguyen Tian Vian 2:15.10, and Nimdam's time of 2:22.71, which she hopes will be good enough to get into the final this evening, and I'm sure it will be. Having a look at the start list for the next, probably just Rosale Mira Santa Ana of the Philippines. See whether she can catch up with that 2:22.71, so that marker at least for the final has been laid down already. Heat number 2 led out by Leti Mitao of Thailand, very much a veteran in Vietnamese swimming, I should say. Vietnam, Leti Mitao. And it also features in lane number 4 Kitia Patramadi of Thailand, the lady who is famous for ending Tao Lee's 4-time win streak in this event back in 2013 in Myanmar. Of the 200 fly featuring Le Thi Tao of Vietnam in lane number 2. She was 6th at last SEA Games, personal best time of 2:14.97. Azahila Pamatani of Indonesia in lane number 3, who finished 3rd at the Singapore National Swimming Championships just a couple of months ago. And then the 2013 SEA Games champion, who has broken out and got off very quickly in lane number 4, Kitia Patrawadi. Adinda Larasati Dewi of Indonesia, who is one of the dark horses for this event in case the likes of Tian Lien and Ting Wen just caught off guard slightly. She is in lane number 5. And in lane number 6, Rosalie Mira Santa Ana of the Philippines, trying to become the first Filipina lady to podium in this event since 2009, when Erica Toten clinched a silver medal. No Filipina has ever won the 200 meters butterfly at the SEA Games, and she's even struggling to get to the final at the moment. Remember, the time to beat 2:22 from Nim Dam of Thailand in heat number 1. So at the halfway stage, Kitia looking smooth, looking comfortable, just ahead of the 2 Indonesians. Le Thi Tao in 4th spot. Indonesians a little quicker in terms of their stroke cycles ahead of Kitia, which also shows that the Thai has got a couple more gears to go for the grand final in itself. Yet again, the swimmers working on the streamlines off the wall and the breakouts. That was very good from Kitia Patrawadi. And her coach watching it will be pretty pleased with that. Just keeping her form and coasting home for the final 25 meters, making sure the chin is down as she takes breaths and completes the stroke cycle. Le Thi Tao of Vietnam slowly getting into the picture now, just ahead of the 2 Indonesian girls. And Rosalie of the Philippines will be struggling to make it to the grand final. But it will be Kitia Patrawadi of Thailand just ahead of Le Thi Tao. In fact, Tao is coming right back now just to touch home just ahead of Kitia, and Pamatani of Indonesia in 3rd spot. And making up the field will be Adinda Larasati Dewi, also of Indonesia. So Le Thi Tao hoping to podium for the very first time at the SEA Games in the 200 meters butterfly, having finished 6th the last time out, makes it to the finals as the fastest qualifier from heat number 2. It wasn't the best of starts from her, and she played catch up from the get-go. I think that momentum took her past Patrawadi for top spot. Patrawadi is certainly slowing down after she turned and headed home for the final 50 meters. To 15:42, confirmation of the results. Much faster heat and heat number 2. That's Kitia Patrawadi, certainly looks in fine fettle heading into these games. And she looks probably to be the one to upset the order a little bit for the grand final in itself. Kwa Ting Wen, the fastest qualifier, the only one to go below 2:15. And it is Rosalie of the Philippines to miss out on the grand final, with Nimdam Kanita's 2:22.71 good enough to qualify as the 8th fastest in the final. Nicole To of Singapore also there in the final 8 for this evening's 2nd gold medal to be won, the women's 200 meters butterfly. Well, the 400 meters freestyle is the event that a lot of Malaysians will turn up for this evening, only because their golden boy is featured inside. He is in lane 4 in heat number 2, but for heat 1 in the men's 400 meters freestyle, Vietnam's Hoang Ki Phuoc, who finished 2nd in this event in 2013, will be hard favorite to go through, along with Jessie Kung Lacuna of the Philippines. Afla Fadlan Prawira has also clocked some very impressive times this year, so do watch out for him in the grand final in itself, which will feature Singapore's Pang Sheng Jun, I'm sure. He will be swimming alongside Benedict Boone in heat number 2. There is the SEA Games record held by Wilson. I can tell you that he's gone below that time
event 103.
4 times already since setting that record in Singapore.
Heat 1.
It's one of these events where there's one clear hot favorite, and he can absolutely demolish the field and take down that record and bring that time down to crazy levels if he swims true to form in the final. Heat 1 of the 400 meters freestyle. Hoang Ki Phuoc of Vietnam, all-time greatest male swimmer from that country in the SEA Games. Lane 3, Jesse Kung Lacuna, still in search of his first ever gold medal at the SEA Games. Lane 4, Afla Prawira of Indonesia. Lane 5, Thanakrit Katia of Thailand. And Indonesia's Putera Haranda in lane number 6, who's got a personal best of 4:04. Ki Phuoc has gone off very quickly, so he's worked on his propulsion to the early part of this race, and he's a swimmer who's slated for 5 individual events at these games, including of course the 50 meters butterfly, which he will swim in a couple of events time. And it's the long distance events that he's profited from over the last couple of SEA Games. He started out very strongly in the sprint events, especially in the fly and freestyle for the 50 and 100. But over the years, he's caught up in terms of the freestyle events in the 200 and even this in the 400 meters freestyle too. The Vietnamese record holder of 3:54.97, which he set in 2016. Side by side with him, Indonesia's national record holder Afla Prawira, 3:55.38, which he set in finishing second earlier this year in the Islamic Solidarity Games. And speaking of which, it is Afla Prawira who has inched ahead now of Lacuna of the Philippines, and Ki Phuoc, after a very strong start in the first 100 meters at the halfway mark, happy to just work on that streamline and work on the stroke counts, turning perhaps in 4th place just behind Thanakrit Katia of Thailand. Very leisurely strokes of 70 per minute from Afla Prawira. We know that he usually clocks around about 72 to 75. So looking at form more than anything else, don't have to do anything crazy. The main race will be against Wilson in the grand final later this evening. Afla Prawira swam in Singapore as well for the national championships and looked very good there. His battles with Pang Sheng Jin at 72 strokes per minute at the moment for Jesse Kung Lacuna. Hoang Ki Phuoc of Vietnam has slowly lagged off at the moment and is currently in 5th spot, in danger of missing out on the grand final. And that might be a huge surprise if the person who finishes 5th at the last SEA Games does not make it to the grand final in itself altogether. The Da Nang Otter might not be there this evening unless he gets his skates on for the final 100. Prawira of Indonesia heads home and starts getting it into a 4-beat, 6-beat kick for the final 50 meters. Having gone 2 beats for the first half of this race and increasing it ever so slightly, and surely now an easy coast to the grand final. And coming on strong from the outside is Thanakrit Katia, who will touch home just ahead of Lacuna of the Philippines, and Randa of Indonesia in 4th. Hoang Ki Phuoc, who got off to a very quick start, is just stroking home at the moment, so it's huge danger that the Vietnamese might not make the final in itself. Well, we saw at the last SEA Games, Qua Ting Wen was a fine example of the fact that she really took her eye off in the heats of the 200 meters freestyle for women, and she failed to make the cut at all in the grand final. So it does happen once in a while, where you just let your guard down a little. You're thinking that 10 swimmers, I should be there, or thereabouts. It doesn't matter what the lane assignments are for the grand finals, and the next thing you know, you're missing out on it altogether. And I think Hwang Ki-fok might just be ruining the fact that he took it way too easy after the first 100 meters in this race. Kawira certainly didn't, but you could tell from the early part and the early get going in the first 50 meters where Ki-fok got off like a house on fire, and he was really working on that propulsion. And his finishing time of 4:13.50 might not be good enough to get into the grand final with itself. We will see in a while. 4:13.50 could be the barometer for the grand finals of the men's 400 meters freestyle. Malaysia's Wilson Sim in lane number 4 is the man to beat, though, in this event. The first ever Southeast Asian this year to go below the 4-minute mark when he clocked it in Monte Carlo. The 14-year-old Kong Tut At of Myanmar in lane number 2, and then Yap Zheng Yang lost out by a good near 8 seconds to Wilson Sim in the Malaysian Open, is in lane number 3. Sim himself, the defending champion, the fastest in Southeast Asia over the last 3 years, he's in 4. And then Singapore's Pang Shengjin, whose gold medals in the SEA Games have only come in relays, still missing out on an individual gold medal. He swims in lane number 5. Alongside him, Benedict Boone, his compatriot, in 6, and then in lane number 7, Nguyen Thu Kim Sun of Vietnam. The list looks very easy for Wilson, who is in the lead at the moment, and because he's breathing to the right every time he's coasting home for the final 50 meters of this race, he can actually see Shengjin side by side with him, just to make sure that he has a marker there to keep pace with. And Shengjin is now breathing to his right so he can see what Wilson's doing to keep pace with him himself. Everybody will be chasing after this Malaysian boy. And what he's done this year, 3:14.9.48, clearly the fastest time in Southeast Asia this year. Shengjin's got the 3rd fastest time in Southeast Asia this year, 3:55.91. No one else has gone below 3:56 in this region. Well, this man has gone below 3:50. So you can see what is going to happen tonight, especially with the crowd getting going, and when he hears the cheers, he might just smash that SEA Games record to smithereens. Nguyen of Vietnam is in 3rd spot, and Benedict Boone of Singapore in 4th. And it's Sim and Pang of Singapore. Hasn't changed since the buzzer sounded. Extending the lead by a good full second now over Shengjin. Wilson is working on rhythm, 69 strokes per minute. Can go through a lot more. That's very much working on that swimming cadence. Those long loping strokes of his. See the splashes behind that. The kick is slowly coming into effect now for Wilson Sim, so he'll pull further away from the rest of the field. And this is him probably at 50-60%. Still holding steady at about 69 strokes per minute. Jin going at 61 strokes per minute, so his stroke count has dropped considerably. It's the reason why Wilson Sim actually made up a good full second on Jin, a good full second and a half, I should say, over the last 100 meters, and heading home for an easy victory in heat number 2 for Wilson Sim. A swimmer who has gone below 350, this time of 356.20. Certainly way off his personal best, but good enough to qualify for the final. Pang qualifies in second spot, just ahead of Nguyen of Vietnam. So a much faster heat as we expect when Wilson is swimming. .13.50 by Hwang Ki-Fook with the slowest time recorded in heat number 1. We'll have a look at confirmation of the results from heat 2 before we determine the 8 to qualify for tonight's final. It's been a very busy preparation period since he's returned to Malaysia. So Benedict Boone for all 385 should be good enough to get him to the final. Or is it? No. He misses out on it. And these are the qualifiers. Benedict Boone just missing out on the grand final in itself. But Sheng Jin is there alongside Afla and Wilson Sim, the hot favorites from Malaysia, going to this evening's 400 meters freestyle final. As I said, it has been a very busy preparation period from Wilson. Everybody wants a little bit of his time here at the Bukit Jalil Aquatic Center. Inundated with photographs, autographs, microphones shoved in his face, but tonight he can do what he does best and do his talking in the pool. Heat number 1 features Hung Eun Chi of Singapore. So actually 2 Singapore swimmers were slated to swim in the 100 meters backstroke, but the coach has decided to withdraw Hua Ting Wen from this event, perhaps in preparation for her in the 4x100 meters freestyle final later on this evening. And also he believes that Hung Eun Chi has just swum herself into form leading up to this. Caroline Chan of Malaysia alongside Yesi Yosaputra of Indonesia also featured in this heat. Yesi Yosaputra finished 4th at the last SEA Games. A lady who is more in tune with the longer distance of the backstroke events instead of the shorter ones. Who finished 5th at this year's National Age Group Champs in March, and then won the National Championships with a time of 1:04.57. So she's just slowly peaking and tapering herself up for the SEA Games. Might just bring a surprise or two. Defending champion, 6-time defending champion Tao Li is not here. So new batch of swimmers
Next,
to take over the throne
104
from Singapore's
backstroke
Queen.
women. Heat 1.
And Singapore's 4th most successful swimmer ever at the SEA Games. Phong Tram of Vietnam, the 16-year-olds in lane number 2, Yosaputra of Indonesia in lane number 3, and then Nicole Justine Maria Olivia of the Philippines, also 16 years of age in 4, Hung An Chi of Singapore in lane number 5, and Caroline Chan of Malaysia in lane number 6. It's Caroline Chan who has gotten off to a very quick start, and these swimmers might not be taking it as easy as we saw in the previous heats. Going into the final, it is Chan who turns first, just 0.16 seconds ahead of Hung, and then Yosaputra behind them. In third spot, Hung An Chi's used the wall perfectly and a great streamline to get herself up and surface. The breakout was brilliant as well, and so she's just slightly ahead now of Caroline of Malaysia. And coming on strong as well, Yosaputra of Indonesia in lane number 3, struggling in lane number 4, Nicole Justine of Philippines. It will be Chi who will probably maintain this lead heading to the wall, just ahead of Yosaputra of Indonesia in second spot and Chan of Malaysia in third.
Thank you.
She will be pretty pleased with her turn at the 50-meter mark, because she bounced off the wall and broke out in perfect condition, second after 50 meters, and then winning the heat just ahead of Yosaputra and Caroline. Hung An Chi, it's good to break her PB this year of 1:04.57 in the final, because there's still a couple more gears you feel. In Singapore's Hung An Chi, 1:05.20. Caroline, 1:05.89. And top 3 in that race, all going below 1:06. And anything below 1:06 you feel will be good enough for the grand final. Nguyen Thiam Dien back out again. This one of the uncharted territories for the Vietnamese, who will be swimming in lane number 7. She doesn't have a seated time this year because she hasn't paid much attention to the 50 and 100 backstroke events over the past couple of years, even skipping it at the last SEA Games. She has got 2 silver medals from 2011 and 2013 in what was her favorite stroke. And before she decided to get involved in the medley races, which she is undoubtedly one of the best in Asia, and because of that she had to get herself involved in the individual events for the freestyle, the breaststrokes and the butterfly as well. She almost forsaken the backstroke event, which was what got her name in the first place. But she is back with it again this year for the SEA Games for the 100 meters backstroke. Nguyen Thiam Dien, just at the bottom of your screen, getting off to a very quick start. Slightly ahead of Roxanne Yu of the Philippines, who clinched the bronze medal in this event at the last SEA Games. One of a couple of Filipino swimmers who train in the USA. She doesn't have a weak stroke, does she, Thiam Dien? Looking very comfortable once again. Another quick time breakout, and this will be her first seated time of 2017 in the backstroke for Nguyen Thiam Dien. A little bit of a body movement away from the center line. Perhaps she won't be too happy with the streamline, but that's something that she can work on with the coaches a little later on when she does her warm down. Yi of Philippines coming in second spot, and Fitriati of Indonesia in third. Making up the field, Hani Unan of Myanmar, swimming in her second heat of the morning, completing the field. Very business-like she is, Nguyen Thiam Dien, even in the SEA Games in Singapore. and also the 2014 Southeast Asian Swimming Championships in Singapore. I remember she just gets out of the pool, just walks off straight away, heads for the cool down arena, the warm down arena, and gets ready for her next event. Hardly breaks out into a smile or anything like that. And sometimes when you look at her and you haven't seen the race, you would think she probably must have lost out on a medal or something like that, not knowing that she went home with 7 golds at the last SEA Games. 103.84, my goodness, that is a marker indeed from Nguyen Thi Vien, who's gone below 102 in this event before in her career. He of the Philippines in second spot. Lady who used to come from the Phuket International School, and Nurul Fajar Fitriati of Indonesia. As we have a look at the qualifiers for the finals, Tian Vien, the only one to go below 104. In fact, the only one to go below 105. Just ahead of Hung An Chi of Singapore, who will be beside her in lane 5 in the final, and Yosaputra of Indonesia, former medalist in this event, will be swimming in lane number 3. Well, the 50 meters butterfly now, and Malaysia's first sighting of the Asian record holder coming up soon. Joe Schooling, of course, swimming in heat number 2, the final heat of this morning. But for the moment, Singapore's interest rests in Dylan Khoo in lane number 3. The 18-year-old who's got a seeded time of 24.72 seconds, side by side with Glenn Victor Sutanto of Indonesia. There is the start list. Glenn Victor is the Indonesian record holder of 24.08 seconds.
Ladies and gentlemen,
there's only one swimmer
105
in Southeast Asia that's gone below 24 seconds. You know who he is. In fact, he's gone below 23 seconds this year. 22.93, the Asian record holder, Joe Schooling, the SEA Games record holder. Well, surely the SEA Games record is going to fall this evening, but might we see the first ever Asian record being set at the SEA Games by Schooling? We'll see what sort of form the Singaporean will be in for the grand final in itself. Sutanto will be the hot favorite in this race, which also features Ten Tian Han, the champion of the Malaysian Open, as well as Andrew Newling of Thailand, and Paul Nguyen, who has taken a very strong start and a very early lead already, usually strong in the backstroke event, but the Vietnamese American is going to touch home first, just ahead of Sutanto and Dylan Khoo of Singapore, just 0.05 seconds behind Sutanto, so the 3 of them surely will make it to the grand final. But Paul Nguyen, the Vietnamese American, swimming in his very first SEA Games, looks very strong so far, and will make his second final for the evening, both in the 50 meters, the backstroke, and now the butterfly, and he'll head in there as the fastest qualifier from Heat 1. .24.21. I can tell you that's a new Vietnamese record. Paul Nguyen has taken down Hoang Ki Phoc's 24.58 record. Sutanto, Dylan Khoo, quite a fast heat. All of them going below 25 seconds. And there he is, Malaysia's first sighting of an Olympic champion in swimming, Joseph Schooling. Be interesting, especially with what's being said in the media and the press here in Malaysia of some comments that he made in Singapore since returning from the World Championships, how the Malaysian crowd will react to Schooling when he is introduced tonight. Here, not much of an audience to watch this in the morning heats. The Asian record holder will be swimming in lane number 4. Side by side with him, long-time rival Triadi Fauzi of Indonesia and Hongki Fok, who looked pretty despondent and disappointing. Perhaps he might be saving himself a little bit for this race. His national record's just been taken down by his compatriot Paul Nguyen in the first heat. Might he take it back again? Jiha Ong of Myanmar in lane number 2, just narrowly missed qualifying for the finals of the last SEA Games. So Joseph Schooling, his first of 3 individual races that he's penciled in for in these SEA Games. He is second in terms of the all-time gold medals won by a Singapore male. And if he wins all 3, he won't be able to catch up with Tan Tuan Heng, but he can catch up to Ratapong Srisanot as second in terms of gold medals won at the SEA Games on the all-time Southeast Asian list. Joe certainly setting off a marker and then slowly closing down and coasting home now. Breakout yet again, world class, and we can use that word on a Southeast Asian swimmer, because Joseph Schooling has touched on just 0.11 seconds ahead of Siddiq of Indonesia. .24.17 seconds. Not his fastest time, but he knows as well that is him on his C game in the SEA Games. If he takes that A game into effect for the grand final, we're pretty sure that SEA Games record is going to fall. .24.17. Triadi Fauzi tried to live in the Schooling home, and he did, closing out by 0.11 seconds in Supakrit Panuratana of Thailand in 3rd spot.
50 meters.
So Schooling fastest qualifier ahead of Le Nguyen. Swam pretty well to get into the final, and once again Hongki Fok misses out on the grand final for his second event at these SEA Games. It doesn't look to be in good form, the Da Nang Otter. We'll see what happens when he appears in his next few events that are forthcoming over the next few days. But day 1 of swimming and the heats are over. The grand final start at 7 p.m. Remember, you can catch it on Octo Sports. Make sure you join us then from the Bukit Jalil Aquatic Center.